Morning, everyone. Welcome to Jim episode number 14 of Merritt in the Morning. Who knew that we'd make it this long?
Not me.
Well, exactly. Odds are one of us would have been run out of town by now.
Could still be.
Yeah. So welcome. You're watching Merritt in the Morning with your hosts,
Jim Merritt.
and I'm Brad Klopfenstein. We're coming to you live right now, if you're watching on Facebook, from Cafe Audrey's at beautiful Fort Harrison, open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. Now open for dinner Wednesday through Saturday. Beer and wine available.
What do they serve here?
They serve Alpsfrau beer now. So we got a special guest today.
We got it.
But first, we have a new sponsor this week. Stockyards Bank and Trust.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you very much, Paula. Central Indiana locations, 71st and Binford, Carmel, downtown Indianapolis, Plainfield, and in St. Francis Hospital. Also sponsored by Alpsfrau Beer with their tagline. We've added it this week. So very, very Bavarian, which it is the season. We're in Oktoberfest season. So
And I can vouch for Alpsfrau. I've had it, and it's actually pretty good, so.
thank you. So our guest today, you might know the voice in the face and the logo on the chest, Mayor Steve Collier. He's wrapping up his 8th year, so he's 7.75.
We're getting real close.
Yeah, 7 years and 3/4 into his term as mayor of the city of Lawrence. So today we're going to talk to Lawrence municipal government, talk about his career in public service, and otherwise just talk about good stuff that we talk about.
And we are so happy he's here. We've been led in Lawrence in the Republican Party in such a great fashion by Mayor Steve, and the nice part about it, one of my claims to fame is that my kids were in Lawrence North High School when he taught there. He's got a long history of being a coach. He was kind of coach for everybody when he was mayor, when he is mayor of Lawrence, and we're just so happy to hear that you're happily going to retire.
I used to kid with the senator here that quite a while. I was lucky enough to have three of his kids in class, and all three of them were smarter than I was, by the way. Pretty sure smarter than their dad too.
Yes, there's no question about that.
They made me an awfully good teacher.
Yeah, they were good students, good kids, good kids.
So as you're wrapping up your term as mayor, you go till the 31st of December, and then we won't have a mayor for a couple hours. Then there will be a new one coming in. Let's just talk about why you got in, because originally you were on the Lawrence Common Council. You decided to run for mayor. What were the things that you wanted to accomplish, and how many of those things were you able to accomplish, and what is still yet to come?
Before you start, my kids would come home from high school and talk about this teacher that loved Ronald Reagan. And talked a lot about Ronald Reagan. That's my type of teacher.
Well, Brad, to answer your first question, first remember that I was a retired teacher, happily retired, and got a call from the then Mayor Merritt said if I would be interested in running for council seat. I was so naive to politics, because I didn't even know what council was where I lived there. So I ran, and turns out teachers have high name recognition, and I won fairly handily. And then within that time period, I was looking at what was happening in Lawrence, and I've lived in Lawrence since I was 8 years old. So I have a very deep seated love for the city of Lawrence. I want to see it have success. I thought we could do some things a little bit better. So I made the decision after talking with my wife and my family about running for mayor, to run for mayor. And here I am now 8 years later, and I'm real proud of what my team has been able to accomplish.
Well, it's come a long way. I've lived here now 4 years, and just in the 4 years that I've been here, it's been an amazing transition. And I know even before that, there was a lot of things that have been going on. So kudos to you and your staff and your vision. What were the big things that you really wanted to accomplish when you got in?
Well, first of all, we had to get financial stability back in the city. We were kind of in a jam, and came in and inherited a lot of issues and problems. And so my cohort in crime, I call him Jason Fenwick, he and I sat down, and those first 2 or 3 months, we were 13, 14-hour days, and trying to get our house back in order. And once we got that established, some financial stability, at that point, we wanted to be able to identify and get an identity for the city of Lawrence first, and that was very important to me. And also, we had to fix our water utility, which was in very, very deep trouble. We'd not had any kind of rate increases for almost 14 years. Not a good thing to do, so we had to get that back in shape. With the help of the council, we were able to raise rates, and happy to say right now, we've never been better financially. We just opened up our third water plant over on 9th Street. Water become a very precious commodity, throughout the nation and then Indianapolis. And so happy to say that Lawrence is in great shape in terms of our water for at least the next couple of decades. All of our water comes out of the ground. So that protects us from drought. So if you live in the city of Lawrence, you gotta feel really positive about the fact that you're gonna have a great water supply for as long as I'm going to be around here. So,
And we've seen water being a decisive economic development factor. If you want to build, you need utilities, you need electricity, but you also need water. And I've seen many municipalities miss out on growth because they don't have that natural resource.
I'm glad you raised that, because right now we've seen an awful lot of growth in the city of Lawrence. We report that, but we're growing so fast that now we have to get our utility to catch up, and not water, but more sewer capacity. The more outlets go in, the more sewer capacity you need. We're not unlike anybody else in central Indiana. All of ours goes, south of Indianapolis. So our job right now, and we're actively working on this, and spending several $1 million already on increasing capacity to allow for increased building in the city of Lawrence.
So when you started, obviously you said that the water company here in Lawrence was upside down. Was there pressure to at least consider merging with Citizens Energy Group?
Let me put a myth about that now, because one of the challenges was, and I met with Scott Salisbury and of course at that point Marty Westrope was there helping us, there was this myth that people of Lawrence, if you tried to raise water rates, you'd be voted out of office and then very next time. I was in a fortunate position where I had to do the right thing, and Scott and I were right on the same page. We had to do the right thing. So raising rates was not really a tough decision to do, but if we got voted out, we got voted out. After the rates were increased pretty dramatically, I got one phone call from a snowbird about the rates. I explained to him what we'd done. He was fine with that. Scott got 2 emails that we had to get to. So that whole idea of being voted out because of the water, affecting water supply, that kind of went away. And so in that situation, I was approached in the first 2 or 3 months by water companies wanting to buy the city of Lawrence. Now, if I wanted to get the city immediately on financial great ground, I could have sold it, for about $14 or $15 million and put that in our coffers and then move forward with them. But I really didn't think that was a great choice, and happily they would be that's the case.
Going back a long time, 32 years, 1991, we get the call that the BRAC Commission is going to close Fort Beck. And my ears were dog-eared because of the amazing amount of panic and fear. What are we going to do with the 2,800 jobs at building 1? How we are going to approach the future? Well, we're in Fort Harrison, beautiful Fort Harrison right now, and we have a state park. We have a championship golf course. We have just an amazing amount of military, not installation, but services. And we have a new library. It's something that, yes, something that we all wanted as leaders for 35 or 40 years. That library has got to be a feather in your cap and Dr. Smith's cap, along with the school corporation moving here at some point.
A couple things happened that Nathan sat there talking about, that the city of Lawrence finally gained control of our reuse authority. Before that, it had been a battle between Mayor Goldsmith and Mayor Schneider, and they went back and forth, and so Indianapolis got control of the reuse authority. Therefore, we didn't really have any controls on what was happening here. So growth didn't happen at the speed it could have had. Once we got control about 6 years ago, we began to be able to actively recruit economic development. The library, we finally got nailed down on where it was going to be. That took some arm twisting. It took a little bit, me being a little bit more aggressive about it's got to happen now, or we bought the market. So the things that have happened around us all happened because the city of Lawrence now has direct control over the development that happened here on Region Authority. I mean, it's not just here. I mean, you've seen Meyer out here on 25, you've seen Freaky out there on 25. So it's happened all over the place, but I think a big part of that was us being able to really be able to dictate and control what was coming in. We're about to see another major development come up on the corner of actually Lee Road and 56th Street, which will be essentially home craft moving across the street. They'll be building about a 3-story multi-use building over there. And all the young people that are listening today, there will be a Starbucks when you're at 56 and or some kind of coffee shop. I don't know Starbucks, although they have a pretty good input. But there will be a coffee shop there. You know, I talked about that. The Otis Apartments, which have been a fantastic addition to the city. All of the young people, that's what they want to see kind of there. So we're just about filled up, you know, here in downtown. We're going to break ground tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock on the municipal administration building, school administration building. That was kind of very near and dear to my heart. I started working on that like 4 years ago to get it down here to downtown. So as I'm easing off out into the sunset, we're going to see some big things happen. I'm sure we'll talk about this shortly, but we're about to open up our Station 38 will be completed. And we're converting on that on September 26th. So as Corey Thorne, who I actually stole from the Lawrence Township, she's been amazing. I told Corey about 3 months ago, my Corey, I said, as I get towards, kind of want to slow down a little bit. And she just ignored me.
That is not in her nature.
So
We love you, Corey.
Yeah.
Well, some of the getting in the weeds a little bit about the reuse authority, I wrote the legislation. And one of the things that we didn't do was sunset so that Lawrence could take over. And second of all, the city of Annapolis was backing the bonds. And so we're Mayor Schneider and mayors after that we weren't able to wrest control away from Indianapolis and several of the weeds that, and luckily Mayor Collier was able to cut the weeds and get control. That's really what made the place blue.
Yeah, we went through 3 years of improved financials. And we went up to S&P and visited Chicago a couple of times, and they gave us 3 consecutive bumps, which never happens. And all of a sudden, we were in much better financial shape. And one of the concerns was, as you mentioned, the fact that the city of Indianapolis has been bonding some of the reuse authority bond, and now the city could back those, that building back those. That was the game changer.
That was the linchpin.
Yeah, so we went in and said, we can do this now, we'll take them over. That's all it took.
And people don't really, that's a pretty in-depth description, but it makes all the sense in the world and municipal moves and shakes. It was a big part of the growth of Fort Harrison.
It absolutely does. And by the way, you helped us with that too. I mean, remember, you were a part of that. So it took several people looking for the same goal to get it done. And so we got it done. Of course, I was extremely happy, and Jason was happy because it gave us a chance to do a lot of things that we've been waiting on. Not the least of which, of course, is this beautiful library.
Yeah, you just ribbon. Just cut the ribbon.
Yeah.
Well, you've been in office when they announced they were closing the space.
10 minutes.
I was gonna say it winds up.
I entered in 1991, and boy, the phone lines we had phone lines back then. They were blistering. Everybody was really, really worried and concerned, and a lot of fear. And the Gulf War was coming on. I mean, there are a lot of competing issues, and it all came out really, really well. Legislators, when I was growing up in the political system, members of Congress wanted a post office in their congressional district. When I was working in government, we wanted an Ivy Tech campus. We have that here. We wanted a great golf course, and we wanted a state park, and we have all that here. And so it's a real accomplishment for the citizens of Lawrence, really, to have the hub here. And to be very proud of what's going on, and really it's a new Lawrence, and you made that happen, you and the council and your staff, because no man's an island, no woman is an island.
By the way, Fort Harrison State Park is the most visited state park in Indiana. So it's kind of impressive, you know.
There was certainly demand. If you're just tuned in, you're watching Merritt in the Morning with your hosts, Jim Merritt and Brad Klopfenstein. Our guest today is Mayor Steve Collier, the mayor of Lawrence, Indiana. Thank you to Alps Brow Beer for sponsoring us today. Also, thank you to our new sponsor, Stockyards Bank and Trust, with location in Binford, Carmel, downtown Plainfield, St. Francis. If you don't know them, get to know them.
Yeah, they're great people.
They are. Thank you to Cafe Audrey for being our host. So now back to questions. What didn't you expect when you came in that either blindsided you or you're like, why is this so hard?
Okay, so I guess I would tell you this, that there's no way to accurately define what the job of being a mayor is. And so when I came in, everybody wants to meet you right away. And immediately you have to be able to put what I would call kind of the force field up to see, okay, who's after something and who really wants to improve the city. And so you go through these rather lengthy meetings and you have people come in and come out. So that part really, I guess didn't surprise me. I was amazed at the amount of people who wanted to come right away and see me in there. I think the next thing is that what, I guess on one hand, didn't have to worry about planning my day, because they were kind of planned for me. We knew what we had to get done. There was quite a bit of it that we had to do. And so we began to just kind of make lists to ourselves. We need to get this done, this done, and this done. And by this point, I didn't realize how many people I would need to contact and how I would really need to build a relationship with people throughout the state of Indiana, Central Indiana. I met with Mayor Scott Fatness, was great to me from the day one. I sat with him down even before I took office. Chris Jensen would come in 4 years later, but other mayors, like Chuck Field and so on. Mayors that we share a lot. I mean, we exchange ideas, and if you're not willing to, exchange, beg, borrow, and steal, you're not gonna be a very good mayor in there. So I think that was it. I'd really not been super political. Jim kind of validated this. I was a school teacher, and I thought it was important that I didn't identify any particular party. Jim's oldest daughter, Abby, I had in class when she found out I was Republican. She sort of knew, but she was happy to find out because, most teachers are Democrats, but people, I mean, I retained an awful lot of good friendship with a lot of Democrats because I was a teacher. And so using that ability to cross party lines, they knew me before I became political. That was very helpful. Lacey Johnson, Carl Rubber, two people that helped me out a lot. Lacey's probably one of the most powerful Democrats in Merritt County. I got to know Lacey back when I was a dean of students, out of Lawrence North. And Lacey and I had a strong friendship before I ever became mayor. He was incredibly helpful for a number of different things, not the least of which was we ended up getting a $12 million grant, ARPA fund grant, with his help, because at that point we had to go to the federal government and be recognized as actually a city. They didn't really understand that Marion County was actually 4 separate cities. So in Lawrence was 7,000 when the unit government started. We're now 50,000. So with their help and with the help of Senator Bronson or Senator Young, and Victoria Sparks, actually, they went out and wrote a letter and we got recognized. And so that provided for us the opportunity to get a $12 million ARPA fund. I think it'll happen every year. And
What does it go towards?
well, I don't know if I should actually say what I'm going to say here now, but it's supposed to go toward infrastructure improvements and long-term capital projects and so on. It still kind of sets, it's in limbo right now. The reasons beyond my understanding, although as we did the next year, it has to be encumbered by 2024, it has to be spent by 27. There's still probably over $9 million left to be able to use for that. My vision was separate, different than what the council vision was, but that's two different groups there. So we'll see what happens, at the end of next year.
One of my disappointments for you personally was how the council relationship just completely degraded, just disintegrated last year or two. And a governor, a mayor, and a council, they are a team. They have, regardless of Republican or Democrat, it's got to work for a team. And I know you can't talk a whole lot about it, but for me, I know you, I know your personality, I know your heart and soul. And it's just a shame in your last year or two, that you had to play defense and offense, whereas you don't look at it that way. You look at it for everybody.
I'm happy with what we were able to get done. I also kind of look back and say, what could we have done in the last year and a half? I feel like we've been as transparent as humanly possible with our budgets. I mean, we produce, say, 500-page budget book every year. We got, I think, 7 years in a row when the GFO label. So we try to be as transparent as possible. And that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And I really wanted that to be able to show the council, this is what we're doing. If you have any questions, we can go right here, you'll find out, but it didn't work out that way. And so hopefully, you know, I compare my, Andy Cook and I have talked about his council. And so
Westfield Mayor.
Yeah, the Westfield Mayor. And we're not unique in that respect, but that's not the way you gotta go.
No.
Like you said, it's gotta be council and working together.
Well, everybody knows I'm really a Dave Hoffman. I'm a real big supporter of Dave Hoffman, and I am so hopeful that he can find a way to piece them about.
But he is working hard.
Yes, I
Really
know
is.
he
I mean,
is.
I've never seen anybody working harder than you, and
No.
me myself.
He has really impressed me as being just a ardent candidate and just as busy as you can be, and you could be busy and not doing good work, but he's meeting people and people are meeting him, and he's got some great ideas, and Dave Hoffman has the talent and the experience. It's always great when you have a mayor who understands law enforcement.
Yeah, and Dave's a proven leader. I mean, it's not, we're not taking a gamble on him, but Dave's a proven leader. And from the very first couple of months he was in office, he introduced the idea of body cams. So nobody else was doing it. In fact, people were moving it away from it.
I remember that.
So we moved into body cams. He said, had a presentation with me and Jason, and once we heard the presentation, kind of no brainer for us. So we kind of, you know, we plowed the field for other body cams to come in. Now everybody has them around here, and our officers who were quite frankly a little bit reticent when we started out, they won't go out without them.
Oh, it's a tool. It's a great tool for them.
So Lawrence is guaranteed, we're gonna have a new mayor next year. The majority of the council will be new to the council.
7 of 9.
So what advice do you have for the incoming councilors and mayor?
I would, if I were coming in, and I would say if it's appropriate, have a retreat where it's just the mayor and the council. And you go out and have dinner somewhere, don't want anybody else in there, and just talk about what individual goals are. We have a councilor who actually is Democrats, Ron Freeman. If I could clone her, I would clone each of her, because you would have a great council, because she's at everything. She knows what's going on. She listens, and not that Sean and I agreed on everything.
No,
But
You're
if
not
we disagreed, at least we had a reason why we weren't doing it. So like I said, I really would, you know, she'll be back.
she's really a quality, and has a public servant law enforcement background,
Oh, yeah.
and that's always a bonus. It really is.
Her husband, Fred, has become a close friend. Fred has often given me a backhand compliment. I'm the best Republican mayor he's ever been around. But Fred, he's a great guy. He really is, and he's been very helpful. He and Sean have both been a big help to me. So that's what example I talked about crossing party lines. You really think you a lot better.
You have.
Sharon's actually a big reason why the institute is not be going up there. She was a big help earlier, very early.
And that have you had the groundbreaking for that yet?
It'll be tomorrow. Groundbreaking tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
There were so many ribbon cuttings in ground, you didn't lose track.
That's Friday, September 8th, if you're watching this later on at 10 a.m.
You know, I think we announced Keystone happening in late September. That's gonna be delayed till sometime in.
Keystone, what?
Keystone is a $70 million project. It's a 5-story parking garage, luxury apartments, retail. First of all, he's here. If in Indian Lebanon.
Sure.
He will be using the development that project.
That's wonderful.
That'll be the single biggest capital project in this long, $70 million. So that's a couple of months away.
Yeah, but look, he's got a lot of feathers in that cap.
Yep. So let me ask you, I know what my pitch is. What is your elevator pitch for Lawrence? If you've got 60 seconds or less to get somebody's ear, how do you sell Lawrence?
If I have people coming to Lawrence, I do this all the time. It's easy for me. First of all, I tell them, look at our public safety. You know, you're in safest part of Marion County when you're out here in Lawrence. Second of all, we concentrate on live, work, and play. You mentioned the state park, civic plaza. We have arts that are these cultural centers going up. So we have the arts. That's what they're part of the films is there on a part of the city. Then I think the fact that just we really are a great place to live, work, and play. We have everything from workforce development housing to high-end housing. So we've got it all. So I think if you want to settle someplace where you can basically experience all different cultures, that's the thing to do. We're the most diverse city of under 50,000 in the state of Indiana. Our Latino population continues to grow. We have celebrations like our Christmas tree lighting, which we'll have a little parade. We have families of all different cultural experiences and all different activities that be on that parade. One of my favorite, not because I get to walk and I get to hold up the parade because I'm shaking hands and greeting kids and so on. But it's really the cool things about being in Lawrence. So yeah, I don't think you can find that in a lot of places.
Boy, I hope he's stuck on a lot of elevators because it's
Great, yeah, it is. That's exactly right. I mean, it's what I say. It's like, where else can you go where you have a historic downtown with room to grow, that's walking distance to a state park that has a cultural campus right in the heart of everything.
And they got Cafe Audrey.
Yeah,
And they also they're gonna have a Starbucks.
we got more than that. There's quarter books of bread.
You got some bread, you got all kinds of, and that's kind of what we're focusing on is we really appreciate kind of we don't really want any chain restaurants. They're going to be some, but to add that there. So we I should say, I've heard, I'll say that we're going to have some fine dining coming in the next.
Nice.
That's the one thing.
They've got Fitzgerald's too.
But we also, I'm going to brag about Brad here too. We finally got somebody that's in front of the chamber that is selling the city. And we met like that. We talked about that. And what do I need from you? And I said, really, boy, we need Brad is sell the city, go out and do whatever you can to sell the city, whether it's a car show, whether it's, whether it's house grow, whatever it is. All the people come back, where's this come? Where's I look at it? What's the city? Well, we got 2 weeks from now, we got the Lawrence. That'll be a big deal. That we have people coming from all over the central Indiana come to that. It's the biggest Oktoberfest in Indiana. So
I'm gonna give kudos to Daniel Myers. Hashtag why I love Lawrence. I didn't do the hashtag Jim as a kid.
I'm the Lord one.
So, in our last couple of minutes, what is next for you?
I hear fishing.
hunting. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna do some, the Black Hills, South Dakota, is always my favorite place. I'm a history guy, and so I like to go out there. The Black Hills are certainly an area of great religious significance for the American Indian tribe out there. Kind of my favorite place to go, so I'll do some of that. I tell people I'm gonna do a whole lot of nothing for a while. My wife has already got 3 trips planned for us: Hawaii in January, Disney World in March, and believe it or not, Scandinavian cruise in July. So travel is part of it too. A lot of what we delayed in there, and I want to get to Western Europe. I want to get to Northern Italy. Kind of utilize some of mine. I want to get to the Reagan Library. I want to get to the Normandy. A lot of things that are bucket list items that I want to get to be able to do it. But somebody asked me, what are your plans? I said, I'm not doing a whole lot of nothing for a while, but I'm fearful, quite frankly. I'm going from 100 mile an hour going to 0.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I'll adjust to that.
Right. And I don't think we leave this interview without saying that leading during a pandemic of any entity, corporation, city, town, state, is not easy. And you earn your spurs when you have that challenge to you as a leader of a community like Lawrence.
It became a whole new paradigm for all of us that are here. It's I've not had COVID yet. I've done my vaccinations. I think I'm gonna be okay, but I mean, people forget, I didn't have the option of staying home. We had to come to work, and there were about 9 of us came to work every day. And so we developed our own little pod, that we come and we eat lunch every day. But like I said, it was a whole new paradigm of how do you keep things going and don't let it slow you down. So we came out of it in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
You and I talked a lot, especially early on in the pandemic. And yeah, kudos to you. Lawrence kept going. I mean, there was a lot of places that just effectively shut down for a year, whereas Lawrence was safe, but we also, you said we have a city to run, and
that's one of the major accomplishments of the Collier administration is making their way and getting their way through the pandemic. Clock, we've got world-class golf course. We've got a world-class state park. We have a library that all of us wanted so badly. We're gonna have a new municipal building with the school system. And you know, I always say good education is good economic development. You know, having water supply, there are so many things looking up for the city of Lawrence that I'm just proud to have our podcast and Cafe Audrey, and I'm very proud of my friend
Jim,
the mayor.
you mentioned golf. Mayor, is there anything about golf that you would like to discuss this morning?
The chamber golf outing coming up here.
We have that. There's a couple golf things.
We got a golf outing coming up on the end of September, Dave's golf outing, and that will open. One of my friends in high school, Steve Collier, actually owns those over one. I'm a member out there, but I don't play very much golf. I play at golf, I should say.
That's what I do.
But you got Fort Harrison over here, and Fort Harrison is a course that if you haven't played it, you really have to, because there aren't very many.
But some of us, you'll teach yourself after it. It's a very tough course.
First tee, you're out there and you're back in the woods. It's a fantastic place to play.
It really is.
We got a Wolfman and we got Indian Lake. I mean, you got golf all over the place that we have, but like I said, golf for me, I used to play a lot of golf before I became mayor. Now I just paid for a lot of golf. Part of that fundraising aspect in there.
So we're grateful for your leadership, and that's exactly the stellar. It's been a great interview, and
Now, I'm gonna take a moment, as the mayor mentioned, the chamber has a couple of events coming up. that
he's the president of.
I am the president of the Greater Lawrence Chamber, so mayor was pitching underhand a little bit. He didn't talk about the other thing I thought he might. But the chamber golf outing is Monday, September 11th. We're still taking registrations through Friday afternoon, so we have room for a few more golfers, so please join us. We've got some great sponsors. The Brain Center is the title sponsor for that. We also have the State of the Schools with Dr. Smith coming up on Tuesday, September 19th. That's going to be at the Lawrence Township Schools Administration Building. And we also have room for you to attend and learn more about the state of the schools. And then lastly, for the month of September, of our big things, September 25th, I believe that's a Monday, we are sponsoring a mayoral forum between the two candidates for mayor, Dave Hoffman and Deb Whitfield. That's going to be at Lawrence Central High School in the auditorium. Starts at 7 p.m. Eric Culberson, former Wish TV news anchor, is going to be the moderator for that event. Watch for more information on how you can attend that coming soon. Mayor Collier, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Let me go back to one of these days, Jim. I'm going to get smoother at this. You've been watching Merritt in the Morning with your hosts, Jim Merritt and Brad Klopfenstein. Once again, thank you, Mayor Collier, for joining us. We've been coming to you live from Cafe Audrey's at beautiful Fort Harrison on Otis Avenue. Open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. Dinners Wednesday through Saturday, and they also serve Alpsprout beer now. Thank you to Stockyards Bank and Trust for coming on as a sponsor of Merritt in the Morning. Be sure to check out their Central Indiana locations, 71st and Benford, Carmel, downtown, Plainfield, and St. Francis Hospital on the south side. Thank you to Alpsprout beer, so very, very Bavarian. And Jim, that's it. Thank you all.
Have a good weekend.
Yes, have a great day. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks.